We're live, Kevin Reeves.
We're live.
Good morning, beautiful Facebook people. We're here again with Dummies Guide to Excuses. What is our topic today, Kevin?
Today we are talking about being 40 and bored. And that is something that is it's really come up for me a lot with talking to people. But before we get into it, because we got a lot to talk about here, Jimmy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Coach Jimmy Allen. I am a love and relationship coach. I typically help a lot of ambitious men and women to help them overcome issues with intimacy and confidence and vulnerability, so I can help them get to the other side of that, so they can love big and be more emotionally intelligent, so they can have the love life that they want. And Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself?
I don't have the fancy title up, but I am Coach Kevin Reeves, and I'm a personal development coach, and I've been kind of just figuring out like that ideal person that I really work well with, using kind of my past experiences, and I've kind of landed on some kind of space within the church and post-church, and figuring out people who have been wounded by things that have happened in the church, and I'm kind of helping them move through that. And so it's been a really interesting spot. But as I was mentioning before, I've been talking to people, and I was kind of focusing in on people kind of midlife, middle of life, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of things that were coming up was this idea of kind of like the overarching thing was like settling, like just settling. And so that's where we kind of came up with this idea of 40 and bored. Jimmy and I are kind of both in that space a little bit. And it's a really interesting space to find yourself in.
Yeah. Because it's like that space of like coming up a lot, like, oh my God, is this it? When will life begin? Because, I've been there. And, I was sharing with you yesterday that sometimes I remember making these sort of like declarations when I was in college that by 40, I was going to have this kind of house, this kind of money, this kind of career. And all of that does not look like what I wanted, because a lot of that is because I see now, because of the work that I've been doing, those things, that career, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was not my real path. That was not where I was supposed to be. Like, just on where I am right now, discovering like being a coach is exactly where I needed to be, and learning that that pathway, all of those, I don't want to say mistakes, but all those other declarations really helped me see and to be here right now, to where I am, to learn to give back as a coach, because I didn't even know if coaching wasn't even a thing back in the 90s. But I can see when I literally tell you, when I became a coach, that moment, I remember the moment having this flood of images, like, oh my God, I can see how my life has been preparing me for this moment. And thank God I'm paying attention to life, and I am exactly where I am.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, 20s, everybody's like, you're invincible. Like, you don't think about health. You're just like, what? I mean, if you do think about your health, you're like, who's this guy? Like, working out all the time. Like that's the way I was. And, 20s, 30s, you need to start getting your stuff together. You need to start really like, making some goals. You're working up the ladder at the career. You're getting married. You're getting to the kids point, having kids. The house, all that stuff should be like coming into play. We have like this like prescribed idea that we think about like what life should look like. Yeah. And then when it doesn't, when either it does, you get there and you're 40 and you're like, okay, now what? Or it's the opposite of that. Right? And you're like, I didn't get there. Kind of like what you were saying of how did I missed it? I didn't do the thing I was supposed to do. And so it's really 40 is like this place where it's like, okay, where am I going now? Like, what am I going to do now? And it's a really interesting spot to find yourself. And and in so many levels, I still feel such like a kid. And then like I hung out with a bunch of kids yesterday. I went to like a 7-year-old birthday party. We had a 9-year-old over for like a little like play date. They were like playing Legos and stuff. And I'm like, I feel old, man. Like,
Really?
mentally, I feel super young. I feel like, oh yeah, the same Kevin's always been around, right? But then like hanging around these kids, I'm like, and parents, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like one of those guys now. And it's such a weird spot to kind of find yourself and kind of like accept that you're getting older and there's some mortality here, like
Right.
there's like you're not invincible like you once thought. So it's an interesting spot to find yourself, and we find with clients that they're coming up against that and having a lot of questions.
Right. And two, when we get to that spot, well, when a lot of us get to that spot, we can literally downward spiral into depression, anxiety, and fear, and become super complacent. Because now, especially when love is like, okay, especially in a marriage, like I'm talking to someone like they're over their 40s, and they're like, well, I don't want to start over. Like this fear of starting over, this fear of making a new declaration, this fear of I'm almost at retirement. Like, why should I give up this job? When this is bringing me money, but it's not where you want to be. Or, with the marriage, it's like, well, this is how and this is like really kills me or makes me like really sad when I hear couples say this or people in relationships say this, like, well, this is how we've always been. We've been like this for the past. Well, he's never going to change. She's never going to change. And it's like, we've become so complacent at this age. Like, this is how we are. We make this outward declaration, like we're fixed.
Yeah.
And we're in this box and there's nowhere to go, which is not true.
Well, and it's so funny because like what you said was true, that it's across the board. It's body image. It's, I've always been a little heavier. Why am I going to change anything now? Or it's it's the parenting. This is just the way me and my son get along. This is our personalities, and we can't change that. And my argument always goes back with parenting on this one. Like, you're the adult. Like, if anybody's going to change, it's way easier for you to, because you have a lot more logic, rationale, and ability to think differently than a kid does.
Right.
So I always err on that side, but it's just really interesting. Like, all these different places that we find ourselves in, there's so many different areas that we can do this, right? There's, like we said, the body image, parenting, job, relationships, everything.
Right. The body image, like I was sharing with you yesterday, like, I remember this moment, I think it was high school, something like this. Guy was like, he said, wait till you get in your 40s, it's going to be hard to lose weight. You're going to see, and definitely your body does change. And this is also like, sort of like, I remember being pissed at one of my best friends when I turned 40. I was like, man, like, what's happened to my body? Like, why aren't men having these conversations? Like, can you give me some information so I can like prepare or do something? But with the losing weight thing, and I'm just like, in my mind, I was like, well, it's going to be hard. I had already settled to, this is the way life is going to be for me. There's nothing going to change. And then I was like, well, no. Like, I had another friend who was 40. She was losing weight, so I hired her trainer. And he was like, okay, well, we'll change this and that and that and that and that. And boom, I like lost like 12 pounds. And I was just like, whoa, okay. That's not totally true. All I have to do at this point is reach out to someone who's been there, who's doing what I'm doing, and they can help me. Right. I don't have to settle to this belief that after 40, I can't accomplish this thing with my body, or even in love. Like, we're at this point in our marriage, we're in our 40s, this is the way. It's like, no, you can give up. And even with love, we make these declarations as a child or when we get married, like, you're in a new space now. You've grown now. You can literally throw away those old beliefs and make a new commitment to self, to each other, and what you're up to for your marriage.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because for me, I really had this belief that was with all this stuff that because I have to change, something's wrong with me, or I'm bad because I have to change. Like, change brings about, like, something's not working. It's my fault. I'm not good enough.
Right.
Here's the problem, whatever. And it really made me feel like because I have to change my diet because of how because of my age, I have to I'm bad. Or if, in the relationship, because I have to show up differently, or because I need to have a hard conversation, so our relationship isn't good. And so it's
Right.
really this idea that I brought with me, and until I kind of embraced it and looked at it and went, oh man, like this isn't even true. It's just changing is part of life. That was a really hard thing for me. And there's a new book out, and I can't think what it's called. It's written by John Acuff, and New York Times bestselling author and everything. And I've been listening to his. It's called Soundtracks, is what it's called. He just came out with it like last month, and it's all about like those broken. He calls them broken soundtracks that we just kind of like carry around with us, listening to repeat over and over again. And that's one of my broken soundtracks, is that if I have to change, then something I've done is bad. Something I've done is wrong. And that's a really dangerous spot to get to, because we just see so many people, well, that's just the way it is, and they settle. So, it's something to really be mindful of.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about yesterday is like a lot of people settle into, well, I don't matter. It doesn't matter what I do or accomplish. I don't, it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. And that's another broken record. And literally that is a unconscious belief that is really hindering your life. Like you don't really realize that these underlining broken records, as what Kevin just said, runs our life. And it takes a profession like a coach or a therapist to call it out, to point, like literally that belief is tied to these actions, these results. And because you consistently unaware of it, like because you're unaware of it, this is running your life. And like I was sharing with you yesterday, like, I know someone who literally will not share what they're up to, because in their mind, it doesn't matter, because even if they don't accomplish it or not, at least they're not letting everybody else down. They're only letting themselves down. They don't want to be accountable for anything. And sometimes at 40, we get so ashamed that we don't want to share. We hide. Right. We hide ourselves from the world, and from our families. We stop sharing our gifts. We stop sharing ourselves, and we become so complacent, and we push people away, and they can't even root for us, and it just dampens the relationship more and more.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it really is the person who doesn't look at their checking account balance. They're like, if I don't look at it, it'll just kind of go away. It's a lot of like avoiding what's already there, but it's because it's like, well, I know my bank account's gonna be bad. Like it's all these assumptions. It's this place of just sitting there and knowing, like anticipating, well, this is gonna suck, and so therefore I'm not gonna do anything differently about it. And it all kind of comes back to that same line of thinking. And the classic one we were talking about yesterday too was the movie Tangled. And like Rapunzel stuck in this tower, can't get out, and so she's doing all this stuff inside, but she's bored, and it's all good stuff, but she's bored because what she really wants is outside in that freedom. And it comes back to that classic phrase from the chorus, which is, when will my life begin? And I feel like a lot of people are saying, like, when will my life begin? Or I'm just waiting. But when you hit 40, that's a dangerous place to just be waiting. And it's really scary if you find yourself there, because you're like, man, I should be here. I should have this already established. And we start doing that. And so sometimes that fear can really keep us paralyzed to what we actually want to do.
Right. And and I always say this, stop shooting on yourself, because those shoulds are so dangerous. And it's like becoming aware of how you're shooting on yourself can really help you break those habits. So it's like, when will you show up? Show up is now. There's only right now. It is time to show up. And like, I love what you said yesterday. Like, when you what is it that you said? You said, what gifts do you have to give to others if you don't show up and not be available? Like who pays the price? Even at 40, you still have gifts to give. The moment is right now. The moment is now to change.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's so true, because when you're not living like 100% you, people are missing out left and right. I mean, you think about yourself right now and you think about who you are, and when you are just feeling sweet, like you feel like you look good, you're confident, you're excited, you're kind of just, you have the best version of yourself. And when you walk out the door, and the people that you interact with and the things that you do and the things that you think about, when you're in that best spot, man, there is something beautiful and attractional about you.
Yeah.
that really draws people to you, and you're able to give so much out of that. And you think of like a little kid who's just like being like fully themselves, and they're just like this joy and this innocence and this beauty, and something bad happens and they shut down and kind of shell up and go into this little spot, and we lose that gift. And it's the same thing for every single one of us. And that's one of my joys, honestly, is as a coach, is getting to see so many different people from so many different walks of life and so many different backgrounds with these amazing, unique qualities that are so different from you and from me and from their family, and it just shows, and it's gorgeous. And when we shut that down, who loses out? Everybody.
Right. And I love what you say, because it reminds me, I just started with a new client yesterday. He's in his 40s, and we've had a couple conversations prior to our first session. And so literally he came on the call, had done so much work since our two of our calls before our actual session. And I was so excited, because he had been stuck in being in control most of his life and not allowing and receiving. And he was willing to give that up and allowed his cousin to move in. And because of that dynamic, he was allowing this person to contribute to him, to contribute, like basically fix his meals, help him work out. He lost 7 pounds prior to the call, which is one of the things he wanted to talk about. But preparing himself for love, he was like, oh, I need to work on myself now in order to prepare for love. And my relationship with my cousin is the preparation that I need, because I can see myself wanting to control and tell him what to do. And that's exactly how I am in relationships. He was like, I'm giving that up. And I was like, yes, like giving up these old patterns of wanting to control. I don't matter, which is one of his things. And I was like, okay, we're going to play a big game. Let's make a declaration. By when and what date are you going to be in a relationship? He said July. And I was so excited, because, it pulls him forward. Like making giving up the old and making a new declaration. Even though he doesn't know what it looks like, he's willing to give up what it used to be in order to have what he wants that's coming up for him.
Right.
And then sometimes it takes that and a coach to push you to that edge to say, okay, like with Michael Phelps' coach, we're going to win a world record. I don't know how we're going to get there, but this is happening.
Right. No, it's absolutely, you're spot on with that. And that's something that we all have to do. We have to make that choice. We have to make that decision and say, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, so many times it's just deciding. But I think for so many people, we just we don't realize that we have the choice to decide. We don't realize that ball is in our court, or there's just a lot of fear around it. And I just want to play it safe. I just want to keep it safe. And for me, 40 was the thing that pushed me. I mean, I've talked with several people who are making changes or taking steps who it's because they're 40. Because it's like, man, I'm realizing like life's kind of going by. Like this was the first, kind of season right now. My kids are little. My kids are like third, fourth, and I got a kindergartner. And when I look at my kids, I'm actually starting to see change in them. When they're babies, they're just like little blobs. When they feel like they're toddlers forever. They're just in this stage of like, kind of like, so you feel like you're on this cycle and life is just time is going by so slowly. And then all of a sudden you just start seeing them change. And when you see those changes, and you don't look that much different in a couple of years, but they do. And when you start seeing that, that starts putting like, man, like things are going by, like time's passing, and so that it creates like this sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And so 40 was like a really big spot in my life to go, I need to do something different. Like I can't keep doing this. And there was like almost like a healthy panic behind it all of like, okay, like this flood is coming. I got to get up. I got to move. I got to do something, And so that was a really interesting thing for me. So, maybe leveraging what you're feeling or what you're noticing as a time of like, okay, now's the time. I need to do something, and really making that choice to come back and evaluate it, or to get help, or to look something up on the internet, or to talk to a friend, or, there's a lot of things we can do.
Right. And I love what you're saying too, before we wrap up, it's like, because, for me, like, I love exactly what you're saying. And I think a lot of it probably because like you are a coach, you have these tools, and your wife is a coach. So you have this support system, these tools readily available for you at any moment. And most people don't. So that's why it's so important to have people like a coach or a therapist or somebody in your life who has those tools or doing what you want to do at your disposal, because it's going to pull you forward to have that support system so you can start honoring yourself, honoring your goals, and making new declarations, and start giving your gifts and being the person you want to be for this other part of your life, because life is now. I mean, we're already in May. I can't believe we're in May already. I'm like, it is happening fast. So life is happening fast. And your moment is right now. Decide right now that you're going to make a change no matter what.
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. It comes down to just deciding. As dumb as that sounds, like we always want we want this like light to shine on us, and then like this eagle to soar by, and like free spring, like it doesn't work like that. You just have to decide, like, this is what I want to do. I'm worth it. My people around me are worth it. My families are worth it. My friends, like the influence that I have, like this is a decision that I want to make. And because it all comes back to quitting on yourself.
Right. Tony Robbins would say, you have to get fed up with your circumstances.
Right.
Because that emotional pull will get you off your ass and make a movement. But until then, if you don't get fed up with your circumstances, the way your relationships is, you're going to continue to be stuck in that same cycle. You have to get fed up. Right. I'm tired, done. I need help. Reach out to someone.
Yeah. It's eating a mediocre meal and just like keep eating it. It does. It's I guess it's keeping me alive. This is what I have
never say anything. Like, I've been there in restaurants, my friends hating their food. I'm just like, why you ain't saying anything? I'm like, no, raise your hand, waiter. This sucks. Yeah. I need something new. Right. Raise your hand. This sucks.
Right. So this is the raising your hand to flag your waiter down. Your waiter could be a coach. It could just be you making a declaration. This is the worst food I've ever had.
Right.
But really, like, when we just go through the motions and eat that food that isn't like doing anything for us, and we just look over at all these other people who are eating this like amazing food, and we're like, I wish I could have that. Well, I don't know. that looks pretty tough. That's what we're doing essentially with our own lives. And it's a dangerous spot to be. It's something I did for so much time, and I wasted so much of my life just sitting there thinking, I can't change this. I can't fix this. And getting so frustrated, being moved to tears so many times, being angry, punching things, being so frustrated that I can't change this. And really I could the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotta raise your hand.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Another one. So leave some comments in the comment section. If you need some help, want to raise your hand, just feel free to DM me or Kevin, and we'll be glad to support you. All right.
Absolutely. Awesome. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend.